Hi, I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together, we're Lippy and Grumpy do podcasting.
In this episode, Black Pudding Shock, more from Davros, Imperial Leather soap, and an extended guest feature on the joy of camping.
I did notice I made a slight mistake last week.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did. I kept putting IIS instead of ISS. IIS is a Microsoft software product that runs websites, and ISS is the International Space Station. And I did mean the International Space Station. So I know a couple of tags went out with IIS. So
Oops.
if you were expecting something really interesting about Microsoft web servers and you just got our prattle, then I do apologise very much.
Is there anything exciting about Microsoft web services, whatever it was?
Well, there is if you like looking at websites.
Oh, yes.
If you like shopping, for example, online.
Oh, I do like shopping online.
They're like, don't knock the tech. My advice there. Because somebody will turn it off and that'll be it. Yes. I also had a complaint about the drumming in the last episode.
Oh.
Apparently it was a bit loud and it came on very suddenly.
Oh, no warning. No shock warning there.
No shock warning. I can only imagine the individual was just sort of having a mid-morning nap when he was listening to it. So I'm not going to apologise for that.
No. If you're having a mid-morning nap, what?
Oh boy, you're the queen of naps. You should know about that.
I don't nap too much anymore, actually. I struggle.
Yes.
But I still go to bed at like 8 o'clock, so...
Well, don't we all? And actually the same individual was in a team meeting I was in on Zoom. And I suddenly heard the words, "Nige, I like black pudding too." So
That's probably not what you expected.
No, it did. It was a bit of a shock. And people go, "What's he going on about?" So, hey ho. And we've had a bit more from Davros, who seems to have taken his nickname quite well. He started the email with the voice of Scaro, which I thought was a genre of music.
Isn't that also like a little dragon thing?
Oh, I don't know. It sounds like it could be.
It's a little purple dragon. It's a game.
Oh, I don't know.
It probably isn't what he was referring to, but I'm sure there was a game that had a little purple dragon called that.
Something in the back of my mind.
Maybe?
Spyro. Yes, there was something called Spyro, wasn't there? I think Scaro may be the planet that the Daleks originate from. I'm sure we'll get another email over the weekend.
Sense.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Excellent. And again, he's sent through quite an extensive list. And apparently we got into a bit of a mix-up between Norse and Greek mythology.
I know. When I was actually very disappointed in myself when I saw that. Because obviously Odin is like the dad god. How did I forget that? Zeus is the other disappointed.
Well, possibly. My view on it was, and my take on these things is, it's all a myth. So how could what we said be wrong?
Because it's in the movies.
No, well, that doesn't make it right, does it?
Yeah, but there still is a natural order in myths. You're not going to mix like a turtle or a slug turning into a fish with Adam and Eve, are you? They're two... Well, I'm not going to start that conversation, actually.
I think you're going down a very, very dodgy rabbit hole.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to stop right there.
Just stop there. All I can say is we apologise deeply, and actually I don't really care. So that's fine. He then does go into a number of other subjects that we just cannot repeat on this podcast, unfortunately. But he's suggesting a trip to the zoo wearing our respective bamboo garments, which is quite interesting.
I'll opt out of that. You guys go ahead.
I think that's very, very good. And I have to say, I did wear the bamboo underpants on Friday, so Friday the 13th, when the last podcast went out. Yeah. And I can't get over how soft they are. It's bizarre. Your head starts to explode when you think about it. But
yes.
Well, we'll see. When we go on a long walk in shorts, then that's the acid test as far as I'm concerned.
I also got a picture of the panda advertising bamboo products. So we'll pop that on our Instagram as well.
Excellent.
It is a bit cruel. There's a panda on the bamboo.
It does seem a bit odd.
Toilet paper.
It does seem a little bit odd. But, I suppose it's no different from the current Kentucky Fried Chicken advert that has chickens on it. And I think that's a bit odd. But hey-ho. But I suspect...
the chicken is the thing, so...
Yes, I know, but it does seem a bit cruel in some ways.
Yeah.
Although I suspect that Davros will, again, email us, and maybe this will become a regular spot. Maybe we could do a bit of guesting. Who knows?
The words of Davros every week.
Yes, yeah, the voice of Scaro, as he quite likes to say. Now, you've not had a particularly busy week, I hear?
I have not. Ever since I was offered my job, woo, I have decided I'm on holiday mode now until I actually get a start date, which apparently for the particular role takes a while. My friend recently joined the same organisation but a different location and said it took her 2.5 weeks from the offer date to the start date. So I'm looking at another week and a half.
That was pretty good. Well, that'll give you a chance to do some laundry, catch up on the washing up.
Or just watch Grey's Anatomy all day, every day, which is what I've been doing. I'm very far behind and I finally caught up and it's very dramatic.
Well, the skills are transferable.
They are. That's how I know everything to do with my first aid. And I assisted on a roadside car hit bike.
Yes, you did, didn't you?
That's a joke. I do always have first aid training. I didn't just turn up thinking that watching Grey's Anatomy was going to help with a knife.
Well, as long as you did whip a biro out, take the middle out and then plunge it into his
oh God,
his breathing pipe, whatever that bit's called. Trachea. Breathing pipe sounds better.
Yeah, yes. It does. Sounds less scary.
And sort of following on from last week, we did both try a Santa Yumnut at various times last week, which I think we agreed was
very delightful.
It was delightful, although having eaten one, I then did feel the urge to buy another car due to the sugar.
Oh
God! Got me very excited.
Oh my God! Yes.
I was. In fact, I think 2 days later, I was looking at something completely ridiculous. So it did last quite a long while.
Yeah, it wasn't so much the sugar, I realised, but afterwards I had a bit of a headache, and I was like, why? There was a lot of sugar in them.
There was a lot of sugar. Yeah, and I'm not used to eating a great deal, but very nice as a treat. Thank you, Marks and Spencers, and thank you for the hilarity with the name.
Yeah.
Good.
They have a whole range. It's not just Santa's Yumnuts. There's lots of Yumnuts. There's sprinkled Yumnuts.
Well, I might have to go and try a few more.
You can get original Yumnuts.
Very good. And of course, we should have been marshalling at the Jigsaw run on Sunday.
This weekend.
Obvious reasons that's been postponed to the 28th of February, where it'll be even colder and windier and possibly wetter.
I won't be able to attend, so enjoy that one.
So hopefully that will run, because that is a good fundraiser for the Jigsaw School.
It is, yeah. All good for charity.
All good. It's all for charity. So I discovered 2 things this week, quite odd. First one was to do with Imperial Leather soap. And I normally, when we've had Imperial Leather soap for years, I tend to buy it in bulk packs from a well-known
Can we
online
just
auction
point out,
site.
before you carry on, is that you buy Imperial Leather soap bars.
Yes, as
opposed to the squeezy shower gel, which
okay.
The majority of the people will be thinking that's what you mean, because nobody buys bars of soap anymore.
Well, that's not true.
That is definitely an old person thing to buy a bar of soap.
True. It's not true that nobody buys it, because I buy it.
Most people under the age of 40 don't buy bars of soap.
Maybe we should do a poll then.
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
I definitely, listening to Radio 1, Chris and Scott do a segment where it's old things that you haven't heard of in a long time, and bar of soap was definitely on there the other day, so...
I find that very odd, because as a generation that should be conscious about wastage and plastic use, unless you're refilling these containers, soap is much, much better.
That's a very good point.
Mend your ways. Yes. Anyway, back to the Imperial Leather soap.
Yeah, sorry.
So, unfortunately, comes in a little plastic wrapper, which gets thrown away. And then it has a little label on it, and I've never known why that label's there. And I find it quite annoying when it's left on there, because the soap then starts to form this bizarre shape where it's not symmetrical. So I normally take it off, but apparently, and I don't know how true this is, the idea is that as the soap gets smaller, it tends to get stuck in the soap tray on the shower. That's a point. So if nobody's buying soap, why do showers come with a soap tray?
They don't.
They do. Well, the shower I fitted a few years ago at home has got a soap tray.
It's not so much a soap tray as just a little shelf.
No, it's a soap tray. Well, I shall prove this by finding the instruction book and pointing this out. Anyway, back to the soap. If you turn the soap so it is label side down, there's minimum contact with the soap tray,
and it doesn't get stuck. Shape.
Well, it's a very odd-shaped nipple. Rectangular.
That's actually quite a good use for that.
I don't know if it's true or not, but it actually does work. I have been trying it. I will post a picture of the soap in the soap tray in our shower.
Soap tray that we've had for years as well.
Well, it's not that.
Oh,
no, the one in the shower. No,
I was thinking of the one in the bathroom.
No, that's very old. That predates you.
With the little seals on it.
Yes, older than you. It works in there as well. And the other thing I discovered, the Doobie Brothers, who are a band from the 70s, I love. They're cracking. I always thought they were brothers with a surname of Doobie.
That would be the logical thing to think, I reckon.
That would be logical. And I looked them up this week, and that's not the case whatsoever. Nobody in that band has a name called Doobie.
Then why are they the Doobie Brothers?
Apparently they were struggling to come up with a name when they first started. And somebody said, you keep smoking that stuff, obviously not cigarettes, why don't you call yourself the Doobie Brothers? So the founder members agreed. Unfortunately, one of them didn't know what a doobie was. So it was some years before.
Which isn't a bad thing.
I suppose not, but yes, it would be confusing to people. But it's interesting how you can listen to a band over decades and not actually know they're not called Doobie.
And they're named after something else.
Yes, I'm now going to look up the Righteous Brothers because I'm not convinced they're called Righteous either. Anyway, we have an extended segment this week. We recorded this a couple of weeks ago with a guest called The Frozen Camper, and it went on rather longer than I suspected.
It did, didn't it? We had a few stories. Yeah.
Yes, quite a few stories in it, so we're going to let it run. Now, Lippy, we're going to talk about something that we've done quite a lot of as a family, and that's camping and the joy of camping. And I thought it was appropriate to introduce a seasoned camper, and one that always appears to be cold. So we've nicknamed her the Frozen Camper. Frozen Camper, welcome to the Lippy and Grumpy podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. Now, we've been camping down in Dorset for,
Many a year.
It's nearly 20, no, probably not 20 years, but at least 15. And most of that's been in the same campsite.
It has been in Teletubbyland.
It is a bit like Teletubbyland. It is the most bizarre campsite you can imagine because there's virtually nowhere where it's flat. There's a tiny toilet block, but the views are cracking.
The views are amazing, and the toilet block is a lot nicer than it was when we first used to attend.
It improves like every year.
They revamp.
It didn't improve this year, it was closed. So
True.
Yeah, that wasn't quite so good. And in the camper van, as we now too old for a tent, we had to break the no number 2 rule. And use the toilet to its full potential, which I'm pleased to say went very well.
Thankfully, because it wouldn't have been good for you if it hadn't gone well.
No.
Out of interest, does that mean in the future the number 2 rule is now available, or?
No, it doesn't. No.
I feel like there should be a little rhyme. You do a number 2, you clean the loo.
That's quite good, actually. Will that apply to you as well, Lippy?
No, probably not. Because I'm not very good at cleaning things.
No, I heard about this. Actually, kitchen sink traps, for example.
Yeah, it was a bit grimy, but it's alright.
It
works.
Talking about clearing up, whilst the Frozen Camper generally looks frozen, she's often doing the washing up. I've never known somebody do as much washing up camping as you do, Miss Frozen Camper.
Tell you what, I get a sense of achievement out of washing up.
That's good to hear, because my office this morning looked like a teenager's bedroom. There was so much crockery piled up, and that's only since first thing this morning. So that's not an accumulation over days.
That's quite impressive.
Do you not reuse your crockery then?
Not necessarily.
Just give it a rinse and then.
We hadn't made it downstairs.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you made it to the sink.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Acton Field Campsite, which is run by Mr. and Mrs. Murray. And I think they've owned the farmland there for a very, very long time. Absolutely cracking. So overlooking Swanage itself and across to the Isle of Wight. And what was noticeable this year was how clear the Isle of Wight was.
I remember that.
With the obviously reduced pollution from no planes and a little bit less traffic. It was
a bit less foggy.
It was less of a haze than there has been in previous years.
Yeah, even though it was torrential raining like it always is when we turn up.
No, when you turn up. No, when you turn up, Lippy. When you turn up. Absolutely.
Sorry.
So what? I mean, we've been going since you were quite young. So what sort of memories have you got from camping?
The tree. There's
Yes.
there was a climbing tree with a flat bit on the top that we always used to go and attempt to climb. Considering I would say all of us are quite an accident prone bunch. I think probably the frozen camper myself most accident prone.
Well, the frozen camper does tend to go for the Swanage burn at some point during the break. Where she
Day
goes
one, even if it's raining.
Generally day one.
That's why it's so impressive.
Yes, go from quite pale to lobster red. I think that's fair to say. And then back to frozen again.
Yeah, no tan in between.
No.
It's kind of... have you had those drumstick squishy sweets yet?
Yes.
It's like one of those.
That's what my arm looks like.
Yeah. White at the top, and pink at the bottom.
Ah, yes, I see where you go with that now.
Yeah. Another memory was we used to play 40-40 a lot in the sheep field next door with all the stinging nettles and the sheep poo. Was it 40-40? How'd you play that? You hide in that game, don't you?
I think the rules are quite straightforward, to be honest. Unless you're hiding in a sheep, there's not many places to hide there.
And I'm pretty sure we used to play 40-40. I don't understand how we would have hid in a sheep field, but I just remember frantically running to get to the base to be like 40-40 out. Or in. 40-40 in.
In, 40-40 in, indeed. Because the other thing you did in that sheep field was collect sufficient parts of a sheep bones to make one.
Oh, why? I don't know why we did that. It's a bit creepy, to be honest. It was fun, but it's creepy.
It was a bit weird. But of course, then what we did is brought the bones home and decided to clean them by boiling them. So there was this... I certainly don't try this one at home. A horrendous smell. I mean, it was worse than the pickled egg incident, where it's being boiled in vinegar or something. Really quite obnoxious. It was really quite unpleasant.
I don't remember that.
We've had many adventures. A lot of them sort of on the way to the Square and Compass pub and back again. There's been, as you've grown older, some more and more interesting shenanigans, let's put it that way, certainly on the way back. And some epic walks as well from the campsite to Square and Compasses. A trip that would take you 20 minutes in a straight line it takes 2.5 hours because we've gone the very long way, not just the long way, very long way.
Yeah, all the way out to the point and round and back again.
Yeah, out to the Coast Guard point. And what else is out the Coast Guard point? Can't believe you can't remember.
This was on a quiz we did a couple months ago.
It's the Radar Memorial.
That's the one. Yeah. The spiky thing.
The spiky thing, yes.
What we'll call
And
it.
It's thanks to Radar that you two have mobile phones.
But I get, like, French signal down there.
Well, you need to not buy an iPhone. I think that's the number one thing. But, actually, that's interesting. I've not had that for a good few years, actually. Square and Compasses is renowned for not having any signal whatsoever.
And if you get it, then it is French.
Yeah.
This year there were those gentlemen that were trying to work out why their signal was in a weird language for about 10 minutes, and we were sat there like, it's French. It's French.
Well, that's a combination of an iPhone and a supermarket SIM card, I think, might...
How do you know?
I just guess.
That is no facts, that is.
Well, the world doesn't seem to revolve on facts anymore, so facts.
No, it definitely doesn't, to be honest.
Anyway, we're drifted into political talk. So Swanage itself, I mean, it's hardly changed really in 20 years. There's some new buildings going up and some lovely renovation work. And we've been down there for Regatta Week a few years, which has always been quite entertaining, with swimming competitions.
That was probably the most memorable.
Definitely.
There were a few incidents that we probably shouldn't talk about.
Definitely.
Just for Charlotte's decency. During the actual swimming race. I think the last bit was probably the best bit. We all get out, get wrapped up, take our wetsuits off and stuff and start putting dry clothes on, all except one.
Yes, he who will not be named.
He just sat there in a towel, getting colder and colder and wetter, and I think this is probably the only time where the frozen camper wasn't the coldest person.
Yeah, very true, yeah.
That ended in a trip to A&E, didn't it? On an ambulance.
In the Coast Guard.
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard, oh yeah. And then had to stay in the camper van overnight so that he didn't get cold. That was an excuse to stay in a warm camper van.
I think he went back to his mum's hotel room. I think we offered him a night in the camper van, and he said no because
he got a night in a hotel room. Got
a night in a hotel, and a nice breakfast as well, which is always the mainstay of any camping trip. Actually, is the breakfast.
It is.
We'll post a couple of photos on Instagram of the massive paella pan breakfast that we have.
The party grill.
The party grill's not quite so big. That's very different.
It's quite a staged breakfast, the party grill.
It's staged over many, many hours.
Especially when you've got a big group of us.
Every year we got a new bikini.
Yes.
Yeah, and we went back to that shop, didn't we?
I don't think I've ever been in that shop.
Have you not?
No.
Oh, it was like a tradition for us girls.
It was stupidly expensive. But it's fine, because when mum pays, there's no difference, does it?
The cost to material ratio is fairly poor, to be honest.
Yes. And also, we always used to get like bikini and then matching board shorts. For some reason, we always used to have board shorts.
And
we
flip-flops.
always used to get... And flip-flops. Oh, yeah, flip-flops. So you have matching bikini, board shorts and flip-flops.
Well, flip-flops are the shoe choice of the devil.
Oh, yeah, you do believe that, don't you?
Well, I do, because when you're under canvas in a tent and somebody decides to go to the toilet from one side of the campsite down to the toilet block and they're wearing flip-flops, all you hear at 3 o'clock in the morning is flip-flop, 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 flip-flop. And then about 5 minutes later, flip-flop, 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 which is really annoying. Really annoying.
Yeah.
Why can't they use a bucket?
We used to use a bucket when we first went, didn't we?
We did.
In the middle of the podded tent.
We did. We had an orange bucket from B&Q, and we took it when we were in France camping, took it to rinse it out, and I left it under the sinks, outdoor sinks. Got back to the tent, realised I'd forgotten it. By the time I got back to the sinks, it had gone. So somebody took our wee bucket, completely oblivious. Exactly. No idea it was a wee bucket.
Well, that is karma for you. Let's hope they didn't use it to pour water over their heads, or let's hope they did. That'd be quite funny, actually.
It would be, yes. Or brine a turkey. It would be quite a small turkey, though.
I can't imagine many people are brining turkeys whilst they're camping.
It's your posh camping dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have cooked a whole chicken whilst we were away.
That's slightly different, I still think.
It is, and I didn't brine it.
You didn't brine it?
I don't think I've ever.
There's always next year.
There is always next year. I'm not sure about brining chickens. I think we may have got off topic slightly there.
So I wanted to discuss the shower situation.
Oh, we can talk about showers.
Excellent. Yes, good one. So off you go.
So in Acton Field, we pay 20p for 3 minutes. With inflation, that has gone up. I'm sure it used to be like 5 minutes for 20p.
I don't remember, to be honest.
The timing went down, definitely.
Oh, no, I do remember. Because I used to be a 120p, and now it's a bit hit and miss.
Exactly. So now it's a struggle. 3 minutes to completely shower, which pushes then us up to spending 40p for 6 minutes. But then I remember the days where we would also go for a 9-minute shower. And have a good luxury.
I do remember that, to be honest. 320p's. That would normally be if we'd been cold. Well, you always cold, but like after a day at the beach, you get a nice long hot shower. Like you needed the extra time to get the sand out. I think that was the main difference.
That's all well and good, but surely you just end up with a massive queue of people if everybody takes a 9-minute shower.
That's why there's always a queue at the ladies' shower.
Yeah.
Exactly. And very rarely one at the men's, because quite frankly 3 minutes is about 1.5 minutes longer than you need.
Well, I can do it in 3 minutes now, and that's a full hair wash in 3 minutes. And I do think that is the reason why I'm so quick at getting ready to go places nowadays, because I'm in and out of that shower and my boyfriend's like, did you even shower? Because I'm that quick.
Well trained.
military. I know exactly how long it takes to do everything.
Presumably it's after the shower that you start faffing.
Yes, and then I take like 4 hours to put my makeup on and decide what I'm going to wear.
So it is a topic. It's a bit like the peanut butter and Marmite discussion of a few weeks ago that does divide people. Is it a 20p or is it a 40p? Or dare you risk the wrath of the queue and go for the full 9 minutes?
Or you spend nothing. And you don't have a shower. That's another one.
That is definitely
have a happy
an option.
camper. And if you're listening, you know who you are. Who does tend to avoid the showers.
And that's with a week of camping as well. That's not just like a weekend. That is a week of camping and no showers. And probably no clothes changing either.
No, but I would imagine you can probably only get so smelly. You know, there is a limit. It's which you don't smell any worse. But
Unless you like fell in a bucket of iced fish.
where have you seen a bucket of iced fish?
I have been watching a lot of Friends recently, and Joey did that in one of the episodes. So that just popped into my head there. That is a way you would be smellier.
Are you using Joey as some sort of moral compass?
Yes.
Yes, I thought you were.
The new way of my living now.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people use Jack Bauer. You know, they're in a tricky situation and they say, what would Jack Bauer do? But I guess what would Joey Tribbiani do?
And do you know what? The best bit about that is my main options is eat food, watch telly, and act a bit dumb. So it's win-win, really, for me.
How is it win-win?
Most of the time I get to eat food and pretend I don't know what's going on.
But you said 3 things, so surely that's win-win-win.
Oh, yes.
See where I'm coming from?
I do see where you're coming from.
And that's one of those attributes perfectly defined there.
Yes, quite. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yes, very good.
We always play a lot of board games.
And card games.
Yeah.
And a few practical jokes thrown in.
Oh, we've done
Definitely.
some great practical jokes over the years. There was one week, wasn't there, where a whole range of ones came out.
Brute deodorant. That was quite entertaining.
Yes, that was a little on the nose, I think. The Oreo.
The Oreo was a great one.
Somebody had replaced the cream filling with toothpaste.
But not only didn't put it at the very top of the packet, put it one down so that it didn't look so dodgy when it
was
came
perfectly
out.
planned.
It was perfectly planned. And I remember he picked it out and was like, oh, it's a bit melted, and just put the whole thing in his mouth. And you could tell, like, it took a few chews before he realised what was happening. But
well, your mouth and your brain would have some sort of argument where it's going, this is toothpaste. Don't be stupid, it's not toothpaste. It tastes like toothpaste. Very funny. And of course, hiding in plastic bags, I think you were going to say.
Yeah, in the bin bag.
Oh, you tell that story.
It was, again, a perfectly planned and timed incident where someone hid in a bin bag. I can't remember how the story happened, but I think someone gave someone else some rubbish to go put in the bin, and off they trot to the bin bag, and then popped out. And I think they were quite there was a massive scream, I think, from what I remember.
Yeah. The way she had managed to put herself in the bin bag, she looked like a bag of rubbish. Like, there was no even assumption that there was a person in there.
That is not a compliment.
No. Well, she doesn't listen, does she?
Not exactly. But, yes, not a trick to be tried on people with weak hearts. Let's put it that way. That does scare the bejeebus out of people. So definitely not one to do. But going back to board games, I mean, we've played, and card games, played a lot of cards with pennies, Newmarket, and various card games.
I raked
like
in
that.
on that game last time we played it. I don't
very
know
well.
how I did it, but I absolutely thrashed everybody. I seem to win almost every single time.
And of course, the other really popular one is Perudo.
Yes.
Which is, if you've not played it, is a Mexican game, I believe. It certainly comes from South America. And it involves a number of dice, cups, slightly loud in the shaking, and a lot of bluffing. awful lot of bluffing. And guess
and
what?
very tense as well. When you get to that end bit, the intensity is high.
Absolutely. And getting down to 2 people with 1 dice each is that's pinnacle of tension.
It is.
Quite frankly.
And when you roll a 1 in that situation, you are winning.
Well, are you?
No.
Oh no, I
Not
don't
necessarily.
know.
If you roll a 1 and go first.
I think you have to roll 1 and go second.
Or first.
No.
Well, because you could go 1, 2, and then they go 1, 5, and then you 2 5s. Winner.
Yeah, but what if? Oh, yeah, but what if they say 2 5s and you go Perudo or Doodoo as well?
Oh, well, yeah, then you're screwed.
And then they haven't got a 5.
It's the game, isn't it? It's all a bit.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
It's all about who you're playing, really.
If you throw a 1, which for those who haven't played the game is a wild dice, so a wild number on the dice, then you have more control.
Yeah, you do.
Unless the person who speaks first is 1/6.
I think the best part is when you somehow miraculously guess what the other person has.
Especially if it's really high as well.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to throw in, Frozen Camper?
I was going to mention what happens when you arrive at the campsite.
Excellent.
So, Grumpy sometimes gets a little bit stressed about parking the van.
That's not entirely true. So, Grumpy has just driven for 2.5 hours. He probably needs a wee. He's a bit grumpy. On occasions, he's narrowly had an accident. And then there's an awful lot of fannying around. We won't put it there, we'll put it there, put it there, put it there, put it there. So, and then there's the going onto the ramps, which nearly burnt the clutch out last time because there was lots of upping and downing. And then there's planning on, well, Lippy's coming down on next week, so we'll be there, and it's just quite. Well, actually, what you want to do is park the van, get your chair out, crack open a cider, and look at the Isle of Wight.
Maybe that's what you should do next year. Just do it and see what happens.
Well, yes.
Give the keys to the missus. Be like, you park it.
Yeah, that's not gonna go well at all.
And it'll end up in the bush down the bottom.
It possibly.
Just like your tent.
We're not going to mention the tent. But I point out that if the van's not level, the fridge doesn't work very well, which is a physics thing, apparently.
Oh.
Because it's gas and it's absorption rather than condenser.
Interesting.
Allegedly. Not really. No.
No.
Not really. So anyway, we arrive at the campsite, and then there's some frantic tent putting upping.
Yes.
And you've arrived, Frozen Camper, with a very small car with almost the entire millet store loaded inside.
We literally take everything camping.
I've never seen so much camping kit come out of such a small car with 2 people. It is remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
It's the trying to get it back in at the end that's the tough bit.
Well, it is, and we have a phrase for that called liubing, or load it like Biff, who's a friend of ours who, at the end of a camping trip, pulls all the pegs out, just shoves the whole lot in the back of his Volvo estate and drives home, which is probably quite wise if you're going to unpack it and dry it anyway. But he does have a slightly relaxed view on loading the car at the end of the week. Possibly because he's turned up without any food or cooking equipment whatsoever, so does
a tent and a sleeping bag.
Yeah, it does tend to rely on the local takeaway rather a lot. But, it is a technique. Right, is there any last thoughts on camping then, ladies?
Getting too old to sleep on the floor.
Yes, too old.
Other than that,
You need to buy a caravan or a camper van.
Well, either's good. Obviously, camper vans are much better than caravans, but each to their own.
That's probably a debate for another day.
Well, it's not really, because camper vans are better than caravans. That's the end of the discussion.
What's your opinion on trailer tents?
I think they're really cool trailer tents.
Yeah, that's not what I was expecting.
Really cool. And the thing is, they open up and they're enormous.
They are, aren't they?
Absolutely gigantic. And you can have some of it open or all of it open. It's I think they're brilliant for the space they take up when they're at home, for the space you have and the comfort you have when camping. I think they're superb. So
It'd be quite cool to make one. You know how you see people convert a trailer?
That'd be hard, I reckon.
you'd need
More
somebody
effort
with
than
a
I'd want.
yeah, you need somebody with a sewing machine.
I've got one of those.
Oh, there you go.
I can do the sewing if you guys do the building.
Oh, there's a thought.
Could be a Lippy and Grumpy and the frozen camper do making.
do fabrication.
Oh, imagine.
Excellent. Well, it's been great to have you, the frozen camper, and we look forward to more camping next year, and certainly more than we've had this year.
Yeah,
obvious
hopefully.
reasons. So as soon as we're able to, I think we ought to have a little venture out, maybe to the New Forest.
Maybe not as soon as we're able to, because I feel like that will be like February.
Yeah.
That'd be cold.
It'll be cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So as soon as we're able to, and the weather is warm enough, so you
Perfect.
complain.
I'm ready.
You're ready. Excellent. Well, roll on 2021. It's been an absolute pleasure, Frozen Camper. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks for
I will
joining
do.
us.
Thank you.
So that's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I would like to thank our sponsors, however we don't have any. If you're enjoying our rambling podcast and can spare a few pennies to help with our hosting costs, please head over to patreon.com/Lippy and Grumpy and also leave a good review or a bad one. If you have a topic you'd like covered, please leave us a message via our website, lippyandgrumpy.uk. So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.